Good morning, my friends. It is Monday Morning Grades. I'm your host, Wes Huber. We're going to start in Seattle with an A-plus grade at quarterback for Geno Smith. So he completed 23 out of 30 passes, 77%. That's the highest of any quarterback this week. 320 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 132.6 passer rating. So his air yardage was 11.1 and his yards per attempt was 10.7. So only 13 quarterbacks averaged over a yard through the air over their yards per attempt. But with Geno Smith, he's completing so many of these deep passes, averaging 10.7 is actually really good. He also added 7 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So they came away with the victory. I mean, it was a close one at 48-45. But yeah, definitely an impressive performance from Geno against a bad defense, but we'll give that to him anyway. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of players from this game that we're gonna be looking at because when you're scoring 93 points, I mean, there's going to be a lot of offense. So and we're going to look at the other quarterback, Jared Goff, 26 out of 39. He gets an A. 67% completion percentage, but that's 76% when we account for the drops and the other various types of situations that weren't his fault. So 378 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 121.5 passer rating. Did have an interception. Should have thrown one more, but 9.7 yards per attempt. That was the second most after Geno. 10.6 air yards per attempt. He blew up during the fourth quarter, had 135 yards, which was the most, and 3 touchdowns, which was the most. And it's just such an impressive performance considering he was going up against the Seahawks without Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Shark. So definitely a highlightable performance there. So sticking with the game, we're going to give our A+ at running back, and it's not even close this week, to Rashad Penny. 17 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.9. He 78% came after contact, 6 first downs. So he was successful on first down, or reached a first down on 39% of his total touches. He had 5 broken tackles. He did catch a pass on 1 target. So yeah, easy decision there. He just could not be stopped against the Lions. But so Josh Jacobs, he had a really good performance. Without him, the Raiders don't win this game. 28 carries, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, definitely the MVP of the game for sure. 5.1 yards per attempt and 81% of that after contact. He had the most first down conversions, 8, and 36% of his total touches went for first. 7 broken tackles. That was the most. He had 5 catches for 31 yards on 6 targets. More volume though, so that's where more volume, less efficiency. That's where Rashad Penny takes the A+ over the A for Josh Jacobs. So we're going to give the A+ at receiver to T. Higgins. 9 targets, 7 catches, 124 yards, 1 touchdown. So he had 4 first downs. That's 44% first down rate, 4.13 yards per route run, 7.7 yards per reception. 56% of that yardage was gained after the catch. And he had a 155.8 targeted passer rating and in Cincinnati's 27-15 victory over Miami. So going back to the Detroit Seattle game, we have TJ Hawkinson blew up 11 targets, 8, 179, 2, 7 first downs. That's 64% of his touches went for a first down. Only Travis Kelce had more. He had 8. So 5.11 yards per route run, 22.4 yards per reception, and I mean 61% of his yardage came after the catch. So our extra credit grade A+ to the Giants defense. Justin Fields gets a lot of hate, but again, we're seeing another performance that's overshadowed by the poor offensive line that plays in front of him. So he was pressured on 19 out of his 28 dropbacks. When he didn't scramble, he was pressured on 71% and 74% overall QB pressured. He had 26 individual QB pressures. Nearly a third of those were from Dexter Lawrence, who just had a monster game. Fields was hit 4 times, 5 sacks. He had 1 pass batted down. He completed 1 of 8 attempts when pressured. It's no surprise that the Giants won this game 20-12. With the O-line the way it is, they were able to stack the box against Khalil Herbert in the ground game. It was a dominant performance, and the Bears were actually pretty lucky to come away with 12 points here. B grades. Okay, Tom Brady, the GOAT, 39 out of 52, 75%, 385 passing yards. That was the most this week. 3 touchdowns, no INTs, 114.7 passer rating, 7.4 yards per attempt, but only 6.7 air yards per attempt. And they lost 41-31. And really, I mean, if you look at the performance from Patrick Mahomes, it wasn't his typical dominant performance. They just had random scoring from different areas, and had a pretty good game from CEH as well. So back to the Raiders game, Russell Wilson was 25 out of 31. That's 68%. But when you account for the drops and such, it's 80%. 237 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 124.9 passer rating. That 9.5 yards per attempt, but 11.8 air yards per attempt. 4 carries, 29 yards, and a touchdown. It was a tough loss where the defense just really let the team down, and the ground game as well. And we'll get more into that later. So Nick Chubb, 19 carries, 118 yards, and a touchdown, 6.2 yards per carry, 59% after contact, 6 first downs. That's 33%. 6 broken tackles, 2 catches, 9 yards. It was a typical Chubb performance, and they should have taken this game. There's really no excuse. The defense really let up late, and they lost 23-20. So Damien Pierce, I mean, he's got to be the rookie of the week. We'll get into Kenny Pickett later. He ended up throwing 3 interceptions, and you're seeing a lot of these catchy little phrases tossed around about 3 picks for Pickett. You know what? None of those were his fault. Pickett was perfect. And those three passes, they should not have been picked off. Pickett is pretty close to Pierce here in coming in and helping that Steelers offense move the ball down the field. If his team doesn't let him down, Pickett could have led the team to a victory. So don't believe all the hate that you're hearing on Pickett. It was a really good first performance. I was really impressed, considering how long it took him to master the offense at the University of Pittsburgh. So this was a great sign for the Steelers franchise. I've given him a lot of hate for being a first round pick, which there was one throw to Chase Claypool on a deal. So one of my biggest complaints about him is his arm strength, and he underthrew Chase Claypool on a deep ball. Claypool should have played it better. He had it in his hands, but it was ripped away. But at the same time, it was underthrown, so he had to come back for it. And that's still, I think, an issue, something that we're going to need to see improve. He needs to get that ball out earlier if he's going to be thrown deep like that. But, Damien Pierce, man, 14 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown, average 9.4, 76% after contact. But those numbers are slightly inflated because he did put Houston on the scoreboard finally with a 75-yard touchdown 5 minutes into the second quarter. But he also caught 6 passes, all 6 of his targets, but only 8 yards. So I'd like to see more there. Hoping he's not one of these running backs that struggles to transition into a ball carrier after the catch. So fingers crossed that's not the case. because he's going to lose a lot of his passing down work if that's how it's going to go down. But so 7 broken tackles total, and he had but only 2 first downs on his 20 touches. That's 10%. So that's definitely what knocks him down to a B here. Like I said, the numbers were inflated. They lost that game 34-24. CeeDee Lamb, one of the most efficient players of week 4, 7 targets. He caught 6 for 97 and a touchdown, 4 first downs. That's a 57% first down rate, 3.34 yards per route run, 16.2 yards per reception, 37% came after the catch. Only 7 targets though. That was a little surprising, but we know how Dallas wants to get their ground game established. A 158.3 targeted passer rating, perfect. They won the game 25-10. Dallas's defense, they were just unbelievable in that game. So yeah, definitely give them a lot of credit. And the thing about it is they put a lot of cover 2 on the field, which is what Carson Wentz does for a living, and he still couldn't beat it. And it was just so impressive for Dallas. If they keep playing like this, they're going to be on the fast track to the playoffs. Justin Jefferson, there were a couple of plays that just dropped my jaw. 13 targets, 10 catches, 147 yards, no touchdowns, but 5 first downs, 38% first down rate, 3.77 yards per route run. He had 34% after the catch of his yardage, and a 113.3 targeted passer rating. He had the deep bomb there right after the Saints marched down the field to tie the game. He catches a deep bomb with just seconds remaining to put him in field goal position and to win the game. So it was an impressive performance for Justin Jefferson, and and it came against Marcus Lattimore. So very impressive. So Zach Wilson is going to be our first big second half improvement of the week. So first half, he completed 6 passes, 16 attempts, 38%, 91 yards. He threw an interception, a 31 passer rating, a 5.7. Excuse me, Marshawn Lattimore, not Marcus Lattimore. I was thinking South Carolina running back. 5.7 yards per attempt, 12 air yards per attempt. So in the second half, though, he started to show up in the third quarter. So overall in the second half, 12 completions, 20 attempts, 60%. He had 3 drops though in the second half. So accounting for all that, 83% completion percentage. Crazy for a guy that completed 38 in the first half. 161 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, an 81.5 passer rating. That's a 62% improvement, 8.1 yards per attempt. That's a 29% improvement. But his air yards per attempt, and this was interesting, dropped by 49%. So in the fourth quarter, he was 10 out of 12, another 83%, 128 yards, a touchdown, 13.9 yards per attempt. And then he dropped down to, that was a 138.9 passer rating. He had 10.7 yards per attempt. And again, his air yards per attempt was low, 6.4. He wasn't trying to force the ball down the field. And we saw a lot better Zach Wilson when he played under control. So, he gets a lot of press for his big arm. I think we need to see him taking the underneath stuff more until he's able to read defenses better and determine when to go deep. There was one interception where he overthrew a guy by, 15 yards. It just was disgusting. There's a lot to take away from this game that's positive, and there's a lot to be concerned about. So it wasn't that impressive of a performance overall, especially because they benefited from 3 interceptions from Kenny Pickett, and that they shouldn't have gotten. So we'll see moving forward. Aaron Rodgers, first half, he was 4 out of 11, 36%, 44 yards, threw an interception, had an 11.2 passer rating. I mean, the game was barely watchable with Bailey Zappi on the other side leading, who wasn't that bad, but in the first half, we just didn't see anything. 4 yards per attempt for Aaron Rodgers. He did average 12.8 through the air. Second half, though, we saw Mr. Rodgers just open it up. 12 out of 18, 67%. He threw for 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 131 passer rating, which was a 91% improvement. 8.7 yards per attempt was a 54% improvement. And he averaged 9.5 air yards per attempt, which was a 26% drop off, but it was obviously, whereas Zach Wilson, we're just seeing, signs. We can excuse Aaron Rodgers for a slight drop off in air yards per attempt. They won the game 24-20. So Jamal Williams, he wasn't bad in the first half. He had 11 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Only 3.5 per attempt, though, and 62% came after contact. But in the second half, he had 8 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown, which was 8.6 per carry. That's a 59% improvement. 78% of it came after contact. That's 21% improvement. So the Tennessee-Indianapolis game, wow, that was an interesting one. So in the first half, Alec Pierce, 8 routes, 1 target, didn't do anything. Second half, 9 routes, but then he had 5 targets, and he caught 4 for 80 yards, 3 first downs, averaged 8.89 yards per route run in the second half, 20 yards per reception, obviously, and a 118.8 passer rating. So definitely a portion of that is in response to a down game for Michael Pittman. But at the same time, another chunk of that is from playing from behind. So it's hard. He's showing signs that he needs to be more involved. But at the same time, the script and Michael Pittman having a bad game, we're not going to see that very often. So we definitely want Teddy Bridgewater under center for Miami. We want to get Tagovailoa back. But first half, 9 targets, 6 catches, 102 yards, and I don't believe that's right. I think that's off. 4 first downs, 2.8 yards per route run for Tyreek Hill, 17 yards per attempt. I mean, it was a typical just blow up performance there. But at the same time, they lost Tagovailoa, and it wasn't the only play where Tungo got slightly injured there. There were a couple of pressures. He was pressured quite a bit in that game, and so 98 yards in the first half is what he had. So I mean, it was a good first half, and really nothing to complain about. Excuse me, there was 160 yards. That was his numbers for the game. I face planted. That was the face plant of the week right there. So first half, Tyreek had 5 catches, 62 yards, 2.82 yards per route run, and a 58.9 pass rating. Second half with Teddy Bridgewater, it was 598, 6.53 yards per route run, 57% improvement, 19.6 yards per reception, was at 37%, 113.7 targeted pass rating, 48% improvement. They just, obviously he was trying to be aggressive, trying not to be the game manager. So I'll give Bridgewater credit there, but I know Bridgewater and I know what we can expect in the future. And it's a lot of game managing if he's the starter. And speaking of game managers, let's go to our D grades. And that's where we have Derek Carr at the top of the list. So he completed 21 out of 34, 62%, 73%, if we adjust, but 189 yards, 34 attempts, really 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 76.7. I mean, take a shot, Derek Carr. Come on. 5.6 yards per attempt, 29% uncatchable pass rate. I mean, wow. Okay. So Jonathan Taylor, D grade. 20 out of 42, 20 for 42, 0 touchdowns, 2.1 yards per carry. He had 3 first downs. That's 14% first down rate, 4 broken tackles. I will throw it in there. 117% of his yardage came after contact. He caught one pass for 1 yard, and they lost 24-17. Joe Mixon, they won 27-15. 24 carries, 61 yards. That's 2.5 yards per. I was so close to moving Mixon down to an F here. 4 first downs. He had 1 broken tackle. He caught 4 passes for 13 yards. That's a 17% first down rate. He had a very bad game, visibly frustrated. Gabe Davis, man, I feel sorry for him because he's definitely trying to play through his ankle injury. At the same time, we can't excuse 2 games here. 1 game, I could overlook that, but 2 games, 41 the last 2 weeks, 111 routes, 9 targets, 450 receiving line, 4 yards after the catch, 0.45 yards per route run. So this past yesterday, 41 routes, 3 targets. He had 1 catch for 13 yards. He had 1 first down, 0 yards after the catch. He had a drop, 0.32 yards per route run. I think fantasy managers would appreciate him just sitting a game, getting that ankle right, and then coming back out at 100%, because this is killing us starting him and not knowing whether he's going to blow up in these games, especially against a Baltimore defense that had just been torn apart by the pass. So Amari Cooper, man, I mean, I'm definitely not going to blame Nick Chubb. And I mean, I think there's one offensive player that stands out as the culprit for this loss to Atlanta. 35 routes, 3 targets. He caught 1 ball for 9 yards, 0.26 yards per route run. You get a D grade. He didn't do anything egregious other than just terrible efficiency. So Trevor Lawrence, we knew it was going to happen. It's going to come back down to earth, but this one was pretty bad. So he completed 11 out of 23, which is 48%, but he had a lot of drops in this game. I'm talking a lot. And he had a couple of guys that just completely let him down. So, and we adjust, and we adjust for the drops and the various others, and it's 73%. So 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Here's the thing. There were 3 or 4 other throws that should have been turnovers. It was terrible. So he ended up with an 84.3 passer rating. So the numbers may not scream F grade, but man, he gets an F minus for this one. He should have thrown 5 interceptions in this game. He had 0 scoring drives for a 37-minute and 41-second stretch after throwing a touchdown pass and then having Andre Cisco return 159 yards for a touchdown. So it was 14-0, 11 minutes and 10 seconds into the game. They ended up losing 29-21. That was a winnable game that they let go. So the other F grade at quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he rushed for 51 yards. Who cares? He could do that with his eyes closed. Wasn't so bad in the completion percentage department at 69%, 20 out of 29, but 144 passing yards and one touchdown to 2 interceptions. He had 5 yards per attempt and 5 air yards per attempt. I mean, I don't want to see that. I don't want to ever want to see that. There was definite pause in his mind to attacking vertically, and this is still a banged up defense. 63 passer rating. In the second half, he completed 8 out of 13 attempts for 36 yards, 2 interceptions, a 26.3 passer rating, 2.8 yards per attempt, 4.3 air yards per attempt. Yeah, it's no surprise they lost that game 23-20. Melvin Gordon. This guy's in danger of Mike Boone supplanting him, and he's just the RB2. That's how bad he's playing. 3 carries, 8 yards, 2.7 yards per attempt. Caught did nothing in the receiving game. Had one target, he dropped it. He also lost a fumble that resulted in a touchdown. He had 0 broken tackles. Melvin Gordon, the most overpaid player in the NFL this year. Sit the guy down. Don't even worry about what you're paying him. Get him out of there. It should be Javonte all the way from now on. Christian Kirk talked about a guy letting down Trevor Lawrence. 26 routes, 9 targets. He caught 2 for 60 yards. Whoop-de-doo. 2.31 yards per route run. 22% of that yardage gained after the catch. He had 3 drops, which led the NFL this week, and a 15.3 targeted passer rating. That's terrible. They lost that game. Yeah. So the rookie face plan of the week, it's overblown. You don't have to go out and get dramatic, because we know this guy is he's gonna be better. He's been a beast so far this year. So one bad game from a rookie, we can live with it. Drake London, 19 routes, 7 targets. He caught 2 for 17 yards, 0.89 yards per route run. If I'm being fair, though, we got to give Christian Kirk a pass as well. He's been good this year. But 1 first down for Drake London. He only had 4 yards after the catch. They won the game. It's like Marcus Mariota. He won the game. It wasn't the greatest game. But here's the thing. Difference between Mariota and Lamar Jackson is Mariota, he was aggressive with his targeting. That's it for Monday morning grades. Make sure if you sign up for a new account, you use the code grades, the grade 22, and I'll catch you next week with the week 5 grades. And here we go.